your last numbers in.
Welcome, everybody, to the April 1st meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Service Commission. Let's have a roll call.
Commissioners Khan,
Here.
Rotfogel,
Here.
Sharkey, Bennett, President Ward.
Here.
The agenda for the April 1st, 2009 meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall and on the City of Glendale's website on Thursday, March 26, 2009 at 1 p.m. Item 2, Commission Staff Comments.
Any comments?
Just if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to, I know we did this agenda before. We have this volunteer or this fellow with us. I'd like to introduce her to the commission.
Okay.
Rosanna, if you wouldn't mind coming up. Rosanna Mardirosyan is a Humphrey Fellow from UC Davis. Has chosen our department to work with us for about 6 months. Is originally from Armenia. And is very interested in the environmental processes that we go through, the development of new parks, overall the entire park operation here, and then take that, whatever she's learned here, take the good stuff from here, back to Armenia and do the park development work there in terms of trails, new parks for Armenia. And if I missed anything, please jump in, Rosanna, but she will be here with us 40 hours a week, full-time for 6 months as a Humphrey Fellow from UC Davis. So we're looking forward to
like
working
an
with
intern,
her.
yeah.
Great.
You want to say anything?
About my background,
Sure.
I've been working for the World Bank project in Armenia, which is Natural Resources Management and Poverty Reduction project. It covered every environmental aspect, like watershed management, state forest management, and protected areas management. I was chosen by this program, Humphrey program, which is financed by the U.S. Department and International Institute for Education. I'm lucky to be here. I studied at UC Davis. I've taken many subjects regarding the environmental and project development and project management issues and stuff like that. And I'm happy that Mr. George Chapian agreed to my presence here, and I'm happy to work with you, and I hope I can learn a lot, and the job I reviewed a lot is very interesting and very useful for my future endeavors. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Welcome. There's some great projects I know that we're working on, Griffith Manor and all that, so it's great to have a little extra eyes and ears and look at all that stuff. And
we hope to keep her very busy with all the projects that we have, and just the diversity of activities in the department. She's also interested in the cultural affairs type of activities that we do as well. So,
Park Center. Well, welcome. Thank you. Any other comments, or until later? Any comments on commission?
I don't right now.
Okay. Yes.
Just wanted to commend George and Dave and the rest of the staff for the presentations that you put on last night at council. Like you said earlier, it was a lively discussion, some of it, but we got some good direction, and we're moving forward not only with the Maple Park and the pool, but the adult recreation center. So it's really exciting times that are happening right now, and wanted to thank you for that.
thank you. And what I want to say is, Dave did a great job on all the projects. I think we went 4 for 4 yesterday. And then, I want to thank the seniors who came out. There were a lot of seniors there, and I think without the senior support, the project would have been approved, I think, but we did have people in the tennis community, or one or two, really stirring the pot, calling the county and trying to extend it some more to move the project to another location. And had that been done, I think the project we would have lost $2.8 million in county funding. So, my hat's off to the seniors or Glendale, Greater Glendale Council on Aging, who mobilized and got the seniors out.
I didn't have a chance to see it, and I'm guessing that the funding was approved last night, or what was approved?
What was approved was to proceed with construction, awarding the bid.
Okay.
So the bid was awarded to Hopkins Construction, and we're starting right away.
Good time in the economy. You get a
Yes.
good deal.
Yeah.
Great.
Any word on some of the state funding? Is it starting to break loose? Or?
Marcus here can help me, but at this point, we all know they sold about $6.5 billion in bond money.
Yeah, last year.
And the estimates are that they will be unfrozen. Our funds will be unfrozen in fall of this year.
Okay.
So, which is good timing for all the projects. It may delay one project by 1 month, maybe, but it's good timing for all the projects that have grant funding.
Very
Any other
positive.
comments?
I'll
Yes.
hold off until
Okay.
later because we have a lot of people here. So.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda.
Next on the agenda is item 3A, under Introductions and Presentations, Volunteer Recognition.
And I'll go ahead and respond to this item. You know, many of you know April is Volunteer Recognition Month. And in our department, we are very fortunate to have a number of individuals who come out and volunteer in all sorts of our programs. For any of you who don't know, Iris, our commission recorder, is also our department's volunteer coordinator. And she keeps track of all the individuals and their volunteer timesheets, etc. And so she has worked with the various supervisors at each facility and looked at our levels of volunteerism throughout the year. And we are here today to acknowledge those individuals who have given us such a high level of volunteer participation in our program. So I will turn it back over to Iris so we can move forward with recognizing some of our great volunteers here today.
Thank you. President Ward?
Yeah.
Yes.
Glad to hand them out.
Thank you very much. You can, if you want to step to the podium. I did want to say that between March 1st and 2008 to February 28, 2009, over 300 volunteers provided more than 4,400 service hours, and that translates to an approximate value of $97,000 worth of wages and benefits. So, needless to say, we're very appreciative of all the volunteers, whether they served for 1 day, 1 hour, or day after day, week after week. And I did want to call up the people who they work with the most and know them the best. And we're going to start off with Rita Kachikian, and she's a Community Services Coordinator from Youth and Family Services.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rita Kachikian. I work with the Youth and Family Services Program. And as the volunteer coordinator for the program, I'm happy to present our 4 volunteers that have kind of dedicated a lot of their time to helping us. Lizette Sanchez, want to come on up? She's dedicated 37 hours of her time to help us with various projects and other duties that we have assigned to her at the picture. We have worked with her for a long time, and we're very grateful for the work that she does with us. Also, Michelle Regalado has dedicated 33 hours of her time to helping us.
Oh, wow.
Jennifer Regalado has also dedicated 33 hours. And also Annie Delgado.
It's on mine.
We are extremely grateful to these 4 young ladies and all of our other volunteers who dedicate their time and put a lot of their effort to helping us with various projects. I'm very confident that these 4 young ladies will move on to be leaders in our community. I'm very proud of them on behalf of the Youth and Family Services staff. Thank you very much for all of your help and your dedication. We are very proud of you, and we look forward to seeing all of you kind of develop into leaders in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to call Gabrielle Winter, Community Services Supervisor for our sports programs.
I am Gabrielle Winter, and I supervise the Glendale Sports Complex. And I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Dick Jover today. He has contributed countless hours to our senior soccer program. Approximately 5 years ago, he came to the staff and said that he wanted to start a program where the seniors could play for very little fee. It's $2 a day in the mornings. It started off with 1 day a week, and it has grown to the point where now they play 2 times a week. They have 2 annual tournaments. He's coordinating an 80-plus birthday party for a couple of the players coming up in June. And he just told me that he's got a team going with a couple of players from our program to,
Korea.
To Korea. Yeah, for a worldwide tournament. So, thank you.
Okay, hold it up.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
And last but not least, I'd like to call Savag Garabedian, Community Services Specialist representing ARC programs and Senior Meals programs.
You're done, huh?
Good afternoon, President Ward and members of the Commission. My name is Savag Garabedian, and I'm the Community Services Coordinator at the Adult Recreation Center. Please allow me to introduce 5 of our volunteers today. The first is Anita Preisler. Anita has been volunteering for the city for 3 years. She is the group leader of our fitness classes, our bingo caller, our liaison between our participants and staff, and the ambassador to new participants who wish to partake in our activities at our facility. Anita has accumulated over 240 hours in the past year.
Turn it off instead of on.
The next is Anita Bayoko. She has been volunteering for our city since 1994. She also participates in the fitness program, assists us during special events, and serves meals to our participants on a daily basis. Anita has raised 5 kids, including 2 sets of twins in Glendale, and has contributed greatly to her community. She is nominated this year for the 44th Annual Older Americans Recognition Day Awards program. The next is Margie Uruski. Margie is very active at our facility. She is the assistant group leader during our excursions, and when she isn't leading our participants, she is serving them their hot meals during lunch. Margie was the recipient last year for the 43rd Annual Older Americans Recognition Month Award, and this year Margie has volunteered close to 500 hours.
Wow.
I don't know if Julia was able to make it. I'll just read. Julia is one of our newer volunteers. She has been volunteering for a year. In that year, she's recorded over 455 hours. And Julia acts as the lunch ambassador and our hostess. She also helps during our special events, and she's the one that gets everybody involved during our arts and crafts activities. And finally, I'd like to present Mr. Yegnazar Patatanyan. He has been volunteering with the city for 22 years. He is in charge of the Adult Recreation Center's billiards room. Since 1991, his participants have been competing in the California State Senior Olympics, and they have consistently placed in the top 3. He has already begun the training for this year's Olympics. Mr. Patatanyan has volunteered over 800 hours this year as of today, and he is a tremendous help to all of the participants that come to our facility.
Right.
Since we just got a new camera, why don't you have all of your volunteers come up and we'll take a group picture?
Everybody.
Right, they
And
had
kids?
2/3 the hours, or at least half the hours. It's his group.
Kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring everybody up.
All the volunteers.
Everybody, yeah.
With the full rows.
Go ahead.
Nice intergenerational picture.
Okay. You get a wide angle.
George, Walter? I think I can pay. The girls, the family needs to, yeah. Oh. All right, 1, 2, 3.
That's really wonderful. There's like a whole workforce there, just people just coming out of the woodwork to help everything get smooth and work on our facilities. Really appreciate the help, and anybody else out there that's watching or listening that wants to volunteer, I think there's plenty of room for people to come and help.
Absolutely.
548-2000?
548-2000.
548-2000, there's the number.
Ask for Iris.
Is that you, George?
Okay, Iris, how about the next item on the agenda?
Item 3B, Place Grant Safe and Healthy Streets Plan.
And what I'll do is let me introduce both Mark Sturdivant and Colin Bogart. And I guess Mark doesn't want to come up here, but okay. Maybe Colin, you can give a background on how we started in this project. This was a grant that I think Mark was involved in with the Public Health Department, County Health. Mm-hmm. And I'll let Colin, give you the background. He's much better at it than I am.
President Ward, Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Colin Bogart, and I work for the LA County Bicycle Coalition, and I'm here to talk to you briefly about what I'm doing here in Glendale. And I've also got some slides that I'm going to show you in the process. This is my first ever PowerPoint presentation. I should
make it brief.
I should mention. And yes,
Exactly. That's a private
glad
show.
to know. You'll be glad
Private
to know
show.
I kept this brief.
You're going to have to give royalty to the Beatles.
Yes. The project that I'm working on is funded by the PLACE grant, Policies for Livable, Active Communities and Environments. It comes from the LA County Department of Public Health. The idea behind it is that if we improve the built environment, it will enable and encourage people to get daily physical activity, either walking or biking, for example. The Bike Coalition was the recipient of the grant, but it calls for us to work in partnership with the city of Glendale in this case. So while I am an employee of the LA County Bicycle Coalition, I actually do have a desk here at the city. I'm in the Public Works Engineering Department right now, and I'm working closely with 4 departments in the city, as you can see on the slide here: Parks and Recreation, Community Services, Planning, the Police Department, and 2 sections of Public Works, Engineering and Traffic and Transportation. And I'm slated to work on this project in partnership with the city through June of 2011. The project that we're working on, we have dubbed the Safe and Healthy Streets Plan. The Safe and Healthy Streets Plan, the idea behind this plan is that we want to encourage the city to implement policies that are already on the books that support walking and biking, and we also intend to introduce some new policies that will lay the foundation for improvements for bicyclists and pedestrians going into the future. My current efforts right now are primarily involved in building a community stakeholder group so that we can get community input on what this plan will be. As you can see in this graphic, we've set up a website, labike.org/Glendale, on which we post information. I update this website weekly. I'm also working on doing an Armenian translation of this website as well as a Spanish translation. So that's soon to come. And in the near future, we're going to be doing a series of community outreach meetings, bicycle and pedestrian counts, and drafting a plan which will be later on this year. I do want to tell you about a couple of events that are coming up very shortly, one of which is the Glendale History Ride on Saturday, April 18th. This is going to be a free ride. It's going to start at the Transportation Center, and we're going to be riding our bikes to a number of historic landmarks in Glendale. We're going to have members of the Glendale Historical Society on hand who are going to give us some information about the history of each site that we're going to visit. We're also going to be visiting the recycling center that day. They're doing a big Earth Day promotion, and everybody who's there is going to have an opportunity to win a bicycle, which seems apropos. I also want to mention coming up in May is Bike to Work Day. This is statewide, Thursday, May 14th. I'm working closely with Traffic and Transportation Management here in Glendale. They take the lead on this. We're going to be there's going to be a bicycle pit stop here at City Hall. Plus, we're also going to have 3 other bicycle pit stops in different parts of the city where cyclists can stop, get something to drink, get something to eat, get some free stuff, enter a contest. And I am actually going to be doing a presentation for city staff about 2 weeks prior to that, which is going to be tips, safety and commuting tips for cyclists. The information, there'll be more information, of course, about Bike to Work Day on our website, and I believe there's going to be information circulated on the city website as well. And then in closing, I would say I wanted to include my contact information for you. 818-334-9731 is a direct line to reach me, or call in at labike.org. And at this point, wanted to see if you perhaps had any questions for me.
I do.
Yes.
You had one slide up there that showed the Glendale Safe and Healthy Streets.
Yes.
I know that you had mentioned both for bicyclists and for pedestrians.
Yes.
Obviously, in this community, in the past few years, we've had issues as it relates to safety for pedestrians. Is this taking the lead on that issue, or is this something different and separate from that?
This is something, if you're referring to the 6-point plan that Councilman Najarian introduced, this is separate from it, but I am absolutely participating in it. I know that they have a couple of seminars that they're going to be conducting in May, and it's my intention to not only participate in them, but also to help promote them and publicize them. I also attended, there was a workshop for safe routes to school with the school district last Friday. It was an all-day workshop, and I attended that and participated in that workshop. So this is, I would say, parallel to both the Safe Routes to School initiative that was launched last Friday, in effect, and also the Glendale Safe Streets initiative. I'm actually very excited about both of those programs because I think they fit in perfectly with what we're doing. And I should say also, I failed to mention in my brief presentation, there is a pedestrian element to this project. It's very easy for me, I'm biased, as a cyclist and with the Bike Coalition to forget that sometimes. So there is a pedestrian element to this project as well, absolutely. And it's something that I'm paying very close attention to.
And if I could add, I think Colin is very cognizant of the fact that this isn't a dangerous city in terms of speeding and traffic accidents and pedestrian accidents and bicycle accidents. You actually have a map of where some of the bicycle accidents or people on bikes have been hit. Oh. And one of the partners is the police department. The police department did come on board as a partner in this effort, so Colin was able to get them on board. So they're aware it is dangerous out there. And
okay.
There just was a letter in the Glendale News Press, I believe, just this morning about a guy talking about multiple problems he had. And from my experience, this is not a good city to be riding your bike in, from my experience.
Well, I think that
dangerous.
Leads to...
and the goal is to change that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And get people to ride their bike, too, right?
Absolutely.
My question is, and I was... somebody approached me the other day, and that is, we have a pamphlet that shows trails and hiking trails and things, but do we actually have any bike paths within the city? I know we have some on the perimeter near the LA River, but do we have designated bike paths within the city that maybe even lanes that are marked as such?
We don't have separated bike paths in Glendale. There are some bike lanes. There's a new section of Glen Oaks Boulevard that was striped with bike lanes that goes all the way from Pacific to the border of Burbank. Okay. And those were just recently striped. There is a short section of bike lane on Riverdale between San Fernando and Central. and there's another short section of bike lanes on Verdugo up near the country club.
So maybe
Those are the only ones that I'm aware of.
So maybe one of the things that you eventually will produce will be maybe a pamphlet that would show good, safe riding. I know that there's some
Yes.
off-trail or mountain biking type areas that are on the perimeters of our property too in the city, but some of the other cities have these designated trails and stuff. At least maybe a way that our patrons and people in the city can get to those other systems stuff, safely. That'd be great.
Absolutely. I think a bikeways map would be extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Where is the Glendale Transportation?
Glendale Transportation Center. It's the old train station on Cerritos.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's the MetroLink, Amtrak, Greyhound station.
It's a fun place to meet.
I've been told, and it's a
Yeah.
historic site.
Yeah.
So that's probably our first official landmark.
Do you have any historic bikes out there?
It's a good question. And now that you mention that, I might actually talk to the gentleman who owns the Bicycle Mart on Brand, is a collector of old high-wheeler bikes. Maybe I can get him to bring one out.
Well, that was you, George, in that picture, wasn't it?
It took me a long time to get on top of that bike.
Since you mentioned the striped bike paths or bike lane along Verdugo and streets, and like Glen Oaks. On a street like Glen Oaks, does that lane make it any safer, really, truly?
Yes.
In general? Mm-hmm.
Yes. The research has shown that that when you paint a bike lane, it does actually provide a service, and it is valuable. If nothing else, it shows people this is a designated space for bicyclists. Obviously, you can't paint bike lanes everywhere on all the streets. Not all of them have the space that Glen Oaks do. But yes, there is evidence that says that bike lanes do make it safer, but you still have to be very aware of your surroundings. You can't just ride down Glen Oaks in the bike lane without paying attention to what's going on around you. And me personally, if I had a young child, I'm not so sure I would recommend that they ride that street. Just like I probably wouldn't recommend a young child to try to cross a busy thoroughfare on their own anyway. And in fact, I think this project is going to seek to introduce ideas for bikeways on smaller, quieter streets that don't necessarily involve bike lanes. Without getting into too much detail, there are other options that are available besides just striping bike lanes.
There was something also that you should look at in the downtown specific plan, because when that document was adopted, they showed pedestrian corridors and passageways, along with they were encouraging bicycle usage. Mm-hmm. So there was some patterns that were shown in the downtown area. So you may want to look at that as well to coordinate whatever it is that you're doing.
Certainly, absolutely.
Any other questions? Collins, thank you. Okay.
Just to answer your question, my experience with bike lanes is it sort of gives you the implied right to be there. And the letter that was addressed, or one of the problems that was addressed today in the paper was, this guy's riding his bike and people are honking their horn saying, sort of, what are you doing here? A bike lane sort of gives you that implied permission or right to be there, and so people just sort of look out for you. So they're good to have. They're
the argument
still dangerous.
I read the letter that you mentioned, and the argument is that actually the California Vehicle Code does give cyclists a right to ride in the street. But a bike lane reinforces that, and it gives you dedicated space. I can tell you from my own personal experience, to have a bike lane on a street where there's bumper-to-bumper traffic is actually quite nice, because it provides me with the avenue to just sort of slide through. But they are helpful.
Well, Collins, George.
Let me just say, we went through. Mark is a key person in getting this grant, along with the Bicycle Coalition. Went through a very extensive interview process to pick Colin.
Yeah.
Colin's going to do a dynamic job. I mean, he came out on top of a field of very strong candidates. So really looking for good things to come from Colin. Very sharp young man and a real doer.
About ready to say that, just with the enthusiasm of the commission here, that you've got a challenge, and I think that,
I think he can
great thing for the city and great thing for our department here to really look at those bike trails and do something well.
I'll have to dust off my bike.
All right.
May 14th, right? May 14th.
May 14th for Bike to Work Day, yes.
There we go.
April 18th for
How
the-
long is the grant for?
3 years.
Yeah,
Years.
June
11?
of 2011
2011
is when it comes to an end.
We're good.
And I'll be looking for a job.
By then, I think
Yeah,
you'll be.
you'll set your mark.
hope so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, next item.
Item 4, oral communications.
Do we have any at this time?
No, we don't. We don't have any.
Okay, then I guess move on to the minutes.
Okay, yes. Item 5A, approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on March 4th, 2009.
Commissioners have a chance to review them.
did.
Any comments?
It's fine.
Okay, someone move to accept.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call on the minutes.
Commissioners Khan,
Yes.
Rob Fogel,
Yes.
Sharkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
President Ward.
Yes.
Item 6A under business agenda, action items. Proposed float design for the 2010 Tournament of Roses Parade.
And I'll do this, and what I will do is I'll ask Gary Ackerman, president of the Glendale Rose Float Association, and Chris Lofthouse, and whoever else wants to come up, present the new 2010 float for the city of Glendale. As you know, annually we come before you to get approval for the design of the float. We were lucky the last 4 to 5 years we had all the designs were awarded some sort of trophy from the Tournament of Roses. This year's theme is America's Pride, or the design is titled America's Pride, and the theme is a cut above the rest, isn't it, Chris?
2010.
A cut above the rest. So
Oh, cut above the rest is the
yes.
thing?
So the Float Association, as well as Karen and I have been working together on a new float design. They've gone through numerous designs and picked one out, but I'll let Gary do the talking because Gary's very good at that. I'll turn it over to Gary.
President Ward, board members, my name is Gary Ackerman. I am the current president of the Glendale Rose Float Association. And I would like to introduce some of my board members that are with us. Sean Burcell, our vice president, Rita Marshall, Edwina Carnahan, who is hiding back here, and Bob Carnahan. The Carnahans also give tours and have been involved with the float for years. Very proud to have them on the board. We have picked an extremely good-looking float for your approval. Chris, you want to show us this float? This is...
I believe it was up just a minute ago.
America's Pride. We intend to have up to 10 riders on it. Hopefully, we're going to have a policeman, a doctor, a fireman, maybe a scientist,
Commissioner.
maybe a commissioner.
I didn't say that.
That's fine. And we want to have a young person riding with them that they want to ascend to that goal. Glendale certainly has a Class A fire department, an extremely good police department, and we have very fine people in all the other fields. We're very proud of the professional staff of the Glendale.
Yeah.
The float is going to be 33 foot long, what about 10 feet wide?
18 feet wide.
18 feet wide.
That's quite large.
Can't drive down Glen Oaks Boulevard with that beast. And it's
Eliminate the bike lane, you could.
20 feet.
20 feet tall.
Is there any animation?
Only that the wings are going to fold down to go under the bridge. We figure if we can get them going fast enough, we can get them to take off.
This is a sort of an outdoor float design. The eagle's in his natural element. We're going to use a lot of natural plants
Chris, can
along
you
with the cut flowers.
walk up to the mic and...
Yeah, it's on the screen. So.
This particular design this year, I'd like to add that this is Glendale's 112th entry in the Rose Parade, so there's a lot of good tradition here.
96.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it 96?
96
That's still a long.
continuous
That's still a long time.
Which is the second oldest continuing entry in the parade,
Yeah.
only behind Los Angeles. They go bankrupt, we're in.
Let's hope not.
We can only. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys come up with this selection? And let me preface that by saying, I know, for instance, last year It was the Alex Theater, and it was a different theme. And I thought that was just outstanding because it really related to Glendale. And I could look at that and I could identify with it. This is beautiful. I'm just trying to see how you came up with it. When I look at it, I don't think Glendale, but I'm trying to see what your thought process was when you selected this.
Let me point out that this parade is viewed all across the United States.
Understood.
They don't know the Alex Theater, the Grand Central Airport, or the various other things we've had relating to the city of Glendale. We wanted to have a beautiful float, which people will think of Glendale when they see that. Oh, that was the Glendale float. It doesn't necessarily have to be something representing Glendale. And over the years, quite frankly, we've run out of things to display for Glendale. We've had the Peacock, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Right.
It was the very first sweepstakes award winner, the Peacock.
But Gary, why don't you talk about the process? Normally, the process is you vet through a number of.
The process is Bob and I and you and Dave Weaver, who's our crew chief, Councilman Weaver. We went over and we selected about maybe 20 different designs, their concepts at that point. Talked with Chris, spent a lot of time talking what we can do with it, how it represents, how it affects the theme, how it affects Glendale. And then we get it down to about 6, bring it back to the board. This time I think we brought back 15, about 15. And we had them all around the room. And all the board members came and I gave them slips of paper, 3 different colors. Okay, the first round, pick what you think is best.
All right.
And as it turned out, this particular float was so overwhelmingly picked, that was an unanimous decision.
I have to tell you, I had the same reaction as Commissioner Khan. I didn't see Glendale in it. But just now when you mentioned our police force, we are a safe city, our firefighters who have to deal with dry hillsides, mudslides, our community involvement, we are such a cut above the rest.
And we consider America's pride.
But I understand, the Eagle looked a little bit like we've done it before. You know, we see the Eagle so much, but I understand what you're saying, the whole world is going to see this float, so they don't understand
What we are there to do is to entertain the world and to have Glendale well represented and people to remember that Glendale was a part of this event and the spirit of this event, and that's what they'll recognize, and that's just as valuable, we thought, as identifying something in Glendale.
Well, I liked when you mentioned about having our commissioners on.
Commissioners.
Let me didn't want to miss out.
So when you present the information about the float to the Rose Parade announcers, you will list basically that the people that are riding on it, that there's representing the hospitals within the doctor and a maybe upcoming medical student.
Absolutely.
And
They
things.
will have a
So
story
the
to
script
tell.
is basically what we basically talk to them about, how to describe the float, not only the Eagle, which could be national, but specifically to the Glendale aspect of it, of the elements of Glendale that you want to emphasize. So that is something that we have some control over? Or?
Absolutely. You have final say on that.
Oh, okay.
And what I'd like to do is also tie this into all the open space that we have as well.
Right.
I mean, it's a nature
hillsides.
theme and the
And that was,
hillside.
and we talked about that in our meetings and with the open space and being green.
I see the pine trees in the back
that
and
was,
stuff like
part of that.
that.
All that was part of the story.
We're the Tree City. We're so many things. We're so many things that the Eagle just didn't.
And we have over
grab Glendale
5,000
for me.
acres of open space. That's tremendous.
Well, I could see our hills on it, you know.
One of the other slots we were talking about was a park ranger.
Oh, yeah. And with the...
I think Dave has an extra. Dave's got a hat, and he can ride on that.
Yeah.
You got a hat, Dave?
Got to have the brown hat with the sharp edges on it, yeah.
And this is a unique
Commissioner?
city. I mean, we even deal with mountain lions, you know. So,
Yes,
no, we're a community, a small town in a big city.
I'm very proud of the board this year. We are more than a full board. We have a lot of events coming up. We're going to have if you give me a moment here, we're going to have a Princess Dinner event In 1971, they had a dinner for Princess Grace on a 180-foot yacht in Monaco. And on our board is Jerry Salthouse, who was the chef of LA area in 1971, I believe it was, 1967. And he was the chef that cooked that meal for Princess Grace, and he's going to recreate that meal here in Glendale. We're going to have two settings. The first one is June 13th for 35 people, and it's $125, and I think that one's almost sold out, and we're looking to book a second one. And it's going to be the exact meal. On May 2nd, we're also going to have a rummage sale. As you know, Rose Float, the reason we have the Rose Float Association is to offset the cost of the money to the city for that Rose Float so we can continue having it. We give half of the cost of the float back to the city. And last few years we've given $45,000. We want to continue doing that. We do that through these fundraisers. We're going to have a rummage sale. It won't be rummage, it'll be something that you don't want that will be absolute treasures for somebody else.
Teaks.
And well, I'm not going to go in there if that's what you think. And then we're going to have a straw game. We're going to have 200 straws. We're going to get 10 different restaurants in Glendale to donate a dinner for two. And for $5, you can have a straw and see if you're a winner. So that's the event. And we have a very exciting board. We have a new Rose Float, GlendaleRoseFloat.org, our website. And that's about all I've got to say. Any other questions? Chris, anything else? You do such a wonderful job. We're so proud of you.
Well, we have the privilege of being involved with Glendale and building their float.
Oh, I commend you for all you do, and also I didn't congratulate you for last year.
You guys give me the best job in the world.
Yeah. So. Any other questions, commissioners? Did that answer some of your questions?
Yeah, I think it did. I think it helped with the explanation, because when I did first look at it, I was trying to place it.
I have to tell you, we can't always depict Glendale.
Understand.
Right. Understand that. I think if we had seen a little more of the things we're so proud of in Glendale, that kind of are buried a little bit in the first. I know this is only preliminary.
And when the write-up for the program is written, sometimes they write up stuff. I wonder how in the devil did they ever get there. But I think this one's going to be easy.
We're going to win another award, Gary?
I hope so. If I have to make the award
Pressure's
myself.
on.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
So
Thank you very much.
Thank
I think.
you. Thanks for all your hard work.
I think we have to take
Gary.
an action on this. So,
That's great.
some commissioner will read the motion.
I'd like to move that the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission hereby approve the proposed float design for the 2010 Tournament of Roses Parade.
And that's the American Pride. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioners Khan,
Yes.
Rottfogel,
Yes.
Sharkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
President Ward.
Yes. I think it's going to be a very nice one.
We appreciate it.
Let us know about those fundraisers, and we'll try to attend.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next item.
Item 6B, reports for information only, monthly activity reports. The first is Recreation and Community Services.
And this month's monthly activity report begins with our annual volunteer report, which we had several of
Just
our
honored.
presentations earlier in the meeting. And the chart on the first page of that report is a nice breakdown of the total number of hours in each of our programs total number of volunteer hours provided by volunteers in each of those programs. And as Iris stated earlier, this 4,429 hours was equivalent to $97,000 in
That's
wages
fantastic.
and benefits. So that's very impressive. And we're very proud of that. Secondly, in the report, we recently had a 3-on-3 basketball tournament at Maple Park. Very exciting stuff. And we're trying to, again, boost the level of programming at Maple Park in anticipation of our upcoming future renovations, get the kids active in that facility. So we had a really nice turnout that day, and you'll see they were very proud of it was a net revenue of $200, but this is a big achievement in that area for Maple Park, and the kids are really excited. We got in and out, donated some gift certificates for the winning team, and they gave out sportsmanship awards and all kinds of good stuff, so it's a really nice program. And then for the remainder of the report, we see we have our monthly report on our permits at our various park facilities and our civic auditorium, which is still fairly status quo. We have seen, just to let you know, with the civic auditorium, since we reviewed our fees at our previous meeting, Laura and Ross have had success in contacting some of our shows that had previously notified us that they may want to pull out. We have been able to retain a level of shows at the facility, and in fact, one of the shows that was canceled in our previous year, we actually brought them back as a customer.
Good.
By taking a look at those fees and bringing them back to a more affordable level. So they're really making some good strides towards not only dropping them an email, sending them a friendly letter, making a phone call. You know, we really appreciate you as a customer. We hope that we can support your future event. Please contact us if you have any needs. So they're really making an effort with the new fee structure to get the word out there and try to get folks into the building. So I'd like to applaud their efforts at least. I mean, in the 1 month that they had, that was pretty good.
Big turnaround. It's good. Tough times, yeah. Question?
Not so much a question as a comment. Would like to really commend the civic staff for the mayor's prayer breakfast. That they really did, as they always do, above and beyond. But the room really looked great this year. We moved it back from the Hilton, and instead of the long tables, we went to rounds. And the room looked great, and my concern was that it's such a large room that it was going to look cavernous, and it did not. And I highly recommend it.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Ruffalo.
Any other comments? Next report. Thank you.
At 6B, 1B, CIP projects and park rangers.
Dave?
President Ward, members of the Commission, we'll give you 3 updates on projects. We'll start with John Pearson, Project Manager for the Dumasian Barn seismic renovation. John's got a brief PowerPoint presentation for you, and we'll give you 2 other updates.
Okay.
And John's making his way up here.
Very nice.
President Ward, Commission members, good afternoon. I'm John Pearson. I'm the project manager for the Dumasian Wilderness Park construction projects. I want to just review the barn project and bring you up to date as to where we are with the project right now. This is the barn. It's a 3,000 square foot unreinforced masonry structure at Wilderness Park. It was built 1914 to 1918 by the Le Mesnager family, immigrants from France, as part of the property where they grew grapes for their winemaking operation in Los Angeles. The family lived on the mezzanine floor of this structure. The bottom floor was a farming operation, as was typical at the time in French agricultural areas. It's now one large room. When we finish the rehabilitation, it will be a community room used for a variety of different purposes, primarily educational and interpretive in nature, historic society meetings, lectures, staff meetings, a number of other purposes. The rehabilitation involves several steps. This project that we're on right now only involves the seismic upgrade. That's what we have the funding for at this point. Several things have to be done in order for anybody to use, any of the public to use the barn right now. Public is not allowed into the barn because it doesn't meet seismic code right now. First, we have to upgrade the building seismically. Second, because it is a high fire hazard area, we have to add sprinklers, fire sprinklers in the building. When we do that, hopefully we'll be able to use this at least for docent purposes, for taking people into the building. But in order to use it for assembly purposes, we will also have to add a restroom building, which will be a future phase when we have the funding available for that.
A restroom building, isn't there one just almost from where you're taking the picture from? It's nearby, but it actually has to be within the building.
The restroom building is there. The barn is over there. The restroom building is sized for the use of the park, the hikers, picnic goers. It's not sized for assembly use in here, large numbers of people.
So community room, you would have to have a restroom in, like what, a small dinette or kitchen or something like that for?
The restroom, yes.
Right. Yeah, sometimes they put a small kitchen in them, too. Okay, thank you for answering the question.
The barn is now the visual focus of the park. But as I said, we can't use it functionally because we can't bring the public into it right now. This is the park center area. It's about 12 acres. It includes the barn, the restrooms, picnic shelters, the lower turf area, the 2 parking areas. The rest of the park, the total acreage is 709 acres. We have 697 acres that are in undisturbed state except for the trails that go through them. This is the small amphitheater next to the barn. It's used for lectures, campfire programs, things of that sort. You can see the girder here that's providing temporary seismic reinforcement for the barn until the seismic upgrade is finished. This is our little vineyard south of the barn that is now managed by the Crescenta Valley Historical Society. The seismic upgrade of the barn will focus on the addition of 6 buttresses inside, concrete buttresses that mimic the 2 buttresses on the outside of the barn. Oops. They, together with some bond beams, will provide the reinforcing that is needed for the seismic stability of the barn. Looking at a section, there will be a bond beam around the middle of the walls and a second bond beam at the base of the roof. This will all be concrete. It's much more compatible with the character of the building than earlier schemes that relied on steel bracing to provide the structural support. We're fairly happy with the structural design on this, and we think this is going to be a really excellent community room when we're finished with the rehabilitation. This upper section is looking from east to west. If you're standing in the Dunsmore Creek looking toward the ranger station, you're looking to the west. You can see here the change in levels on the lower floor. Wagons used to pull in this entrance and unload at the dock here. When we do the rehabilitation, this is one scheme. We'll have a flexible arrangement here with hanging panels that can be configured for different types of uses inside the barn. The lower level will be primarily for displays and exhibits, permanent displays and exhibits. The upper level will have some fixed displays and exhibits, but we'll also have these hanging panels that can be moved to configure the space for different types of uses. When you don't have an assembly here, or you have smaller groups, or you just have exhibits, special exhibits of some kind, you can configure the space with the hanging panels for that purpose. This shows the spaces around the barn right now. You have the concrete entry plaza. The parking lot is over here. The amphitheater is here. There's a sidewalk on the north side, and there's patios on the east side and the south side. The restrooms will go in the east patio area. We'll reconfigure the east patio area and the stairs here. Place the restrooms like this. reconfigure the patio here. We'll have a pad for mechanical equipment and a pad for electrical equipment here that will be sheltered, screened with vegetation. The restrooms will be similar in character to the restrooms that we have right now, except instead of being side by side as they are right now, the men's and the women's restrooms, there will be a linear arrangement of the restrooms. Can I answer questions? The status. We have just received bids on the barn. We're in the process of reviewing those bids right now. We have decisions to make as to how we proceed with this because the funds are still frozen by the state. We're not sure what the time period is going to be, as has been discussed, and within the next couple of weeks we'll be mapping a course of action as to how we proceed. But we're in the process right now of reviewing bids.
Yeah, when you talked about a lower floor and an upper floor, you're still dealing with the ground level floor, not the living quarters that were actually at one time a floor above?
It's only a difference of 2.5 feet from the bottom level to the upper level, yes.
So you're dealing with the ground? Okay.
Yeah, the mezzanine is no longer there. We can't put it back without using either an elevator or a ramp that wraps around the barn. It's not practical, so we'll have ways of interpreting what happened on the upper level.
Some of that significant historical stuff will still be visible.
It is.
The fireplaces.
The fireplaces are there. The paint on the walls is just like the family had it when they had the bedrooms and all the rooms up there, and we'll have photos of what it was like.
So when you do the community room in there, you're not putting a drop ceiling or anything like that for it. It's going to be lit from the lights up 15, 20 feet above or 30 feet above.
Yes, we really want to show the character of the structure, including the great framing of the roof. That's architecturally quite significant, and we don't want to hide any of it. So, everybody's real pleased with the character of that big open space, and the earlier schemes for the use of the structure had it divided up into an office, a kitchen, restrooms, an elevator. The space was completely lost, and George Balteri and others, when we started on this development of the new scheme, really pushed for maintaining the integrity of that big open space, and that's the way we've proceeded.
Yeah. That's one of the best parts, being up there. And
you mentioned in terms of the process that's going through. So first you do the seismic retrofit, and then you would look at doing whatever upgrades that you needed to do to the building, such as the fire sprinklers, and then the restrooms?
It will depend on how the bid process turns out as to how much we can afford to do this time. We're really hoping that we can get the seismic upgrade plus the floor and maybe the sprinklers as with the money that we have right now. But that remains to be seen. In addition to that, we'll have to add the HVAC and the electrical and the restroom building.
And part of the seismic retrofit, you're not required, or you're not needing to close up any of the windows or anything like that on the outside of the barn area?
The existing windows will remain, yes. The ones that have been concreted in will be reconcreted to strengthen the walls structurally, but the windows that are usable now will remain usable.
Great.
Also, other questions about the barn? We do have a plant hike scheduled for Wilderness Park for April 11th. This should be in your packet of flyers that you got from Jeff Weinstein. We'll be talking about the wildflowers and the communities and the plants.
Highlighting castor bean there, so I don't know what
it has quite an attractive looking seed pod group, and you can see little flowers. I didn't even realize castor bean had flowers until I saw this photo. The little red things there are its flowers.
Very poisonous, aren't they?
Yes.
Can be.
Poisonous?
Yeah, they can kill you.
They also make oil out of it, so I mean.
Jeff wanted me to pull them up.
Well, we encourage people on the plant walks never to disturb the plants unless it's castor bean or tree tobacco or Spanish broom, and then you can have that.
Or arundo if you have.
We do our best. Yeah. Well, we don't have. I don't think any arundo in
not
the park
in the canyons.
right now.
Okay.
and we've really cut down a lot on the castor bean and the tree tobacco in the main part of the park. It's a continual battle. But anybody that wants castor bean or tree tobacco, we've got it for you. You can come get it. If you have questions about the plant hike, any of the public, you can call me or Jeff Weinstein, 548-2000.
That's Saturday, April 11th.
Saturday,
right?
April 11th.
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Good luck with getting our funds released.
Yeah, I hope the state will cut loose. We were discussing that earlier.
I do have a question, and I'm looking at Dave. It's slightly related. Let me put it that way. Out in front of the barn, there's the grapes, the vineyard that has been planted. And I don't know what the city's policies are. For instance, when this barn was ever completely rehabilitated, if you were allowed to have wine tasting or different functions like that up in the barn, or is that against city policy as it relates to parks?
I can address that. We've had events where there has been wine, and the director can just waive that policy in terms of no alcohol in the park. So there can be a wine tasting event up there, and in fact,
a special permit.
Yes, yeah. And we've had John making wine up there. John and fellow members of the Historic Society up there make
Certainly makes sense. That, yeah.
And I think we think it'll be a good fundraiser for the Historic Society.
Sure.
And we're going to tie it in with them.
Okay.
But we've
It'll have
talked
the
about a
space,
harvest
too. It'll be
festival
large.
and other things. There's a lot of good possibilities.
Sure.
When we took our initial tour of all the parks, when I came on the commission, I think Gary had mentioned that, or somebody had mentioned that at one time we talked about having classes up there to teach people how to make wine.
Right.
And using
That's a lot of potential. Absolutely.
No, they are wine grapes, so they're not too good for eating, for fresh eating, but that's exactly what they're for. There's 3 different varieties up there. There's 100 of each variety.
Cabernet Franc, Merlot, do you know what?
I don't have the list in front of me. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Early Burgundy. Oh, goodness, I don't remember the other two.
Are they classics to the period? Things that would have been implanted back in those days?
I don't know why the 3 varieties we have were selected. No, as far as I know, they were not grapes that the Le Mesnagers grew.
Well, the one grape that should be up there is Zinfandel, which is the only grape that is native to California. So if we don't have that, we should.
There we go.
John will work with his bootlegger friends, and they will.
There's probably a Native Plant Society or one of the groups that would actually support something like that.
They are the
Historical
Society of the Crescenta Valley has assumed the lead on the bootlegging. Is now going through the process of getting the licenses and the things that are required.
You know, we have to approve the label, so you can come back to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All
Okay,
right.
before we get in
Thank
more
you very
trouble
much.
here,
We should have a tasting.
President Ward, next presentation is Sean Toro. He's managing the rehabilitation renovation of the Verdugo Skate Park.
Oh.
Portion of the park. Sean's kind of our in-house expert on this facility, and so pretty interesting stuff what they're doing out there right now. We thought you'd want to hear about it today. So, Sean Toro.
Good afternoon, President Ward, Commissioners. My name is Sean Toro. I'm an Assistant Project Manager with the Parks Department. I would like to begin with this month. We celebrate 5 years of opening our skate park, successful use of our skate park. Had about, I think, 122,000 skaters visit our park over the past 5 years. And with that use, unfortunately, certain things need repair and refurbishment. Our pool coping that was originally installed is just traditional pool coping that you see in a backyard. And we did that for a nostalgic reason. People like having that real feel coping. So we got permission to go out and go ahead and renovate and replace the pool coping. In the process of getting the contractor on board, a lot of things have happened in the skate industry. There's actually been some developments of new pool coping blocks that mimic traditional pool coping but are more resilient to skateboarding. So, and as of right now, on March 12th, 2009, we installed 3 different test blocks. City of Glendale is the only city right now to have these blocks in their skate park. And with the cooperation of the skate park staff, we are actually currently surveying the skaters and trying to find out what block works best, what lasts longer, which feels more realistic, and then in turn we will be the first skate park anywhere to have this product in our skate park. So it's kind of a win-win for us, and again, this is another thing that will bring the city of Glendale back to, we are one of the best skate parks on the West Coast, and because of this, the materials we've selected and the great staff we have at that park. So we want to continue that, continue that tradition. I've brought in some slides just to show you the process of installing the test block, and that is what we started with. That is 5 years worth of skateboarding, 122,000 skaters. And what the skate park staff has had to do on the original block is actually use some paint-on lacquer to contain some of the chipping and to reduce some of the wear. You can see there how, again, unfortunately, with the amount of use we've had, some of the blocks have lifted a little bit, so they had to reattach them, sometimes doing the best they can with the materials that we had. So it wasn't the prettiest thing, but it worked. And again, here, these are the joints in between the coping blocks. After so much use, they start to become almost a cavern, and reduces the quality of the skate park. Contractor came in, removed all the block, ground down all the way down to the original concrete, what they call the bond beam, where the coping blocks sit on. These are the 3 different materials that we've tried. Again, all new to the industry. No one has this block anywhere. We tried different block. We also tried different applications of those blocks, and then on top of that, we've also tried different finishing products. Some were left dry, some had the traditional lacquer, some had a new type of lacquer. So, through installation, we put these fit a lot better to the bond beam than the traditional coping blocks. Again, it's made for skateboarding, and they were able to tailor these blocks specifically for our park. Here you can see the way the new joints will be, so we don't get that wear that creates a cavern, let's say, between the 2 coping blocks. We're using new materials in between the blocks that are more resilient to skateboarding, and the one on the right is one of the test blocks. On the right is with some new type of lacquer material, completely new. The other one is left dry because that is an aerated block to mimic traditional backyard pool coping. But it's much, much stronger. And so that's finished. We went ahead and put some color in it just to get some ideas of what the kids thought of having some color in the park. Again, that's also kind of new to the skate industry, is putting some color in there. And we opened it to the public. And currently we've got some great responses. You can see already that block is about 3 weeks old. It's been grinded well, but there is no damage so far. So that's a good thing. And hopefully in about maybe a month or so, we will have some enough feedback to make our selection, and then go ahead and proceed with the renovation throughout the entire skate park.
Now, in the background is a metal railing on that section, and then this concrete in the foreground. How much of the coping is the concrete?
We did probably, I would say, about 20 to 25% of the coping is the pool coping, or like you said, concrete. The rest of the coping in the skate park is these traditional steel pipe coping.
So they grind on it with the casters or whatever on their board. That's why.
Yes, sir. The trucks. They're the trucks are made out of aluminum. Usually against, say, a high PSA concrete, the trucks would lose. You'd grind more metal than concrete. When it came to the pool coping, the traditional stuff, it was so porous and so soft that the trucks won over the pool coping. So now they've included that into this new coping. So again, the trucks will grind away before our pool coping does, which is good for us.
Yeah, lasts longer.
Bad for the kid.
But good for the industry.
The skateboard industry.
Good for the economy.
Very unique. Oh, very interesting. Any comments?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's
great. Nice presentation. Hope it works out well. Let us know which one you select. Nice.
And President Ward, one more presentation. Lila Batar is project manager on our staff. She's been working on the renovation of Cedar Park. It's two pieces, the renovation of a bungalow that will be a facility in the park, and then the second phase is the actual creation of the Cedar Mini Park. So Lila will give you an update. She's just about done with the renovation of the bungalow, and she'll tell you about that, and we'll hear from Lila.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Good afternoon, President Ward, Commissioners. Lila Bitar, Project Manager. Do we have? Okay, great. We started the construction on the bungalow at the end of January, and it was slated for about 2 months, the construction time. So I'm sure some of the viewers who are renovating their homes may relate to some of the problems we had on the bungalow. A major scope was to restore the exterior siding, and one of the major area that had damage on it was the northwest corner of the building. So we started there, and as we took off the siding, we realized that there was a major dry rot and termite damage in the structure. Now, coming from renovating Spar Heights and the horror story with having the whole exterior of the building completely dry rotted, I was really alarmed. So what I did is I had them basically strip the bottom 3 feet of the whole structure to see how the actual structure condition. We are lucky because it turned out it was only that corner had the dry rot, because there was actually an old sprinkler system that was constantly shooting water on the building for a decade probably. And we didn't have to do any type of structural repair except with that one on the northwest area of the structure. Another issue we had to deal with in the building was the exterior plaster columns. Actually, as you see in the pictures, the columns were completely deteriorated, where the plaster was falling off. And the other problem we had was the brick behind the plaster was kind of deteriorated. So we tried to figure out what's the best way to fix the plaster without having future problems. We ended up consulting Dick Gorman, who is the expert in Southern California with the Plaster Technical Bureau, and he recommended that we lath it completely. Even with lathing it and adding coats of plaster, we had a problem. Okay, how do you anchor the lath into the deteriorated blocks? So they ended up having to fill in the indentations, then use wires and epoxies, and it was a complex process resolving that. In fact, it took them almost the whole 2 months on and off dealing with this plaster. They almost done with it. Took quite a bit of time, but it came out really pretty. We had also problems with an area next to the fireplace where it was leaking, and we couldn't figure out where's the water coming from. So we had to strip the whole side of the house and re-waterproof it and put the siding back again and caulk and all that. We also had a little bit of spent extensive time on prepping the house. The house was left. The house is in good condition overall, but it was the exterior paint hasn't been done probably for a long time. So they spent almost 4 or 5 weeks prepping the exterior. They did a lot of work on that. This is showing you some of the elements we did in recycling some building materials. What we did is we were fortunate in that the garage in the back of the house had the same siding as the house. So we used the siding in that garage area, and we repaired the siding on the house. We ran out of long pieces. We had to go to the Harvard house, which also has similar siding, and we used some of that as well. So if you pass by and see those houses stripped out of siding, you know what we're doing. We also used the corner house. What we did, we took the glass from that corner house, from the windows, and we reglazed the exterior, the bungalow, because it's historic glazing. And we were fortunate in that we have in the bungalow this window that was filled with a glass block. We found exact size window in this corner house, and we were able to replace this one. So fill it in, and you'll never know. It's the same period, the exact same details. So we did some of that kind of rotating elements. This is the interior of the bungalow. This is the main room. And like any other bungalow, you have plaster ceilings, plaster walls, and just full of cracks, spaghetti of cracks over there. So what they did is they routed the cracks and they taped them and they patched them. But the concern again is you come back and you'll see all this repair work. So they ended up doing something a little unusual, which they took these large pieces of fabric and they put them on the ceiling and then they patch over that, which is expensive, but that's really a good way to do it because any hairline cracks in the future won't penetrate through. So some of the viewers who tend to put a chipboard piece and cover that plaster, here is a way of really restoring the plaster without covering it up. Here we see that we did some restoration work also on the wood in the main room. And this wood is grained, which means that they actually painted the grains on the wood. They took the wood and then apparently the grains weren't good. We tried to figure out what went wrong. I think maybe they stained it too dark. It was stained, but again, they ended up painting the whole wood with grain. So we brought in a specialist who was basically repairing all that work. And you can see her very detailed type of work here. So this is before and this is after. How it's the room coming along. Generally we kept the layout and the walls the same, except the bathroom. The bathroom we had to do some extensive work in it for ADA accessibility. Here I'm showing you some of the elements we used. We reused some lighting, vintage lighting fixtures. We were lucky we have some of those. And this fixture itself could be worth about $250. The little fixture, they're quite expensive. We also have used the existing hardware. We had it restored. A specialist came, took all the hardware, restored. This was, of course, full of paint, and you have pieces missing and so on. Restored all the hardware. Even the cabinet hinges, this was full of paint. They took the cabinet hinges out, they restored them, and put them back on. So we did that kind of restoration work. And here is a picture of the exterior, painted. We're looking at, we had quite a bit of rain this season. It almost rained every week. So the contractor was to finish end of March. We have about over 2 weeks of rain delay, so we're looking at finishing the second week of April. And then we'll have we have to inform GWP. They take about 10 days to turn on power, and we need to put in carpet. So we're looking at maybe getting it ready for staff to move in end of April. The construction estimate for this project was $175,000. The bid came at $159,000, and so far we have no change order requests. So we did well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and we have a crew that is really taking pride into the project. They love the building. They're trying their best there, so we lucked out.
I like that you used the word pride. I thought this park is going to be Glendale's pride. It's unbelievable. And all the work and the restoration and
the classic
keeping
residence.
what you could and the windows and the...
Yeah, it's fun. It's been a fun process.
Yeah.
I think the point should be made that the reason we took stuff from the garage and the other house is they are not remaining on the property.
Correct. They will be demolished.
And so people should know that.
Yeah, so we try to use as much as we can. And the other thing is you won't find this siding. I mean, we were lucky that we had it right there. And what I asked also the contractor is to take out some extra and save it for staff in case they need to repair that siding in the
Great idea.
And the windows.
You got that, Gary?
Yeah.
Warehouse it without the termites.
It's going to be fabulous.
George
Heritage Garden.
looks very pleased.
Yeah.
It's a neat era, in Glendale's history. I think it's going to be a fabulous park. With the Heritage Garden in the back, it'll be really, really neat.
And it's a place where you drive by a lot, so a lot of people will enjoy it and see it.
It'll go very nicely with the Adams Hill Mini Park
Yes.
and the historical value of that, too. So it's great.
There was something in the Parks magazine, I don't know, from this March, that had something about adaptive reuse, and that's kind of the trend now, especially as it relates to green building techniques and things like that, by maintaining that. So I guess we're kind of on the cutting edge
We are.
Cutting edge.
of that.
And
Cut
even
above the
with
rest.
the paint, and we used environmental paint, and we did that as much as we can.
Great.
Was there any asbestos in the building?
Yes, we done the asbestos cleaning about a year ago. So
Probably the
we're ready to-
linoleum and the flooring and stuff.
It was mainly around the flue and the mastic at the roof. More in the corner house than in the bungalow. Bungalow was only the mastic around the vents on the roof.
What about lead paint?
Lead paint there is. We did all the lead paint abatement, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough nowadays to
Yeah.
get into an old building. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
We're
Thank you very
preserving
much.
our past. That's
Thank you.
nice.
Nice project.
Thank you.
Any more?
That's it for presentations, and I think that's it for me, unless you have questions.
No, I don't believe so. Our next item is Park Service.
Next item on the agenda is an ARC update. Did you want to remove that from the calendar?
Let me briefly tell you, Mr. Chapchin was telling you earlier that we had a big day yesterday. We had 4 projects go before the council and the redevelopment agency. The ARC was one, and let me take them in kind of progression. We start with Pacific Pool. Peter Verheilik's the project manager on Pacific Pool. We got direction last night and approval to move forward with, they adopted a concept design and gave us direction to move forward with design development documents. So kind of that first step where they adopted an L-shaped pool. Project budget is about $6 million, and we have now concept to move forward with, so we'll move forward on design development drawings for that. Shahin Bagumian is our project manager on Griffith Manor Park. We got approval from the redevelopment agency and the city council for funding for that project yesterday. They had to make findings for the agency to approve their funds, approximately $3 million in funding, and then approve the contract for the project architect. And that also goes from concept to design development drawings. Maple Park, Audrey Galnazarian is our project manager on that. We got approval last night from the council to move from design development drawings to construction drawings for that project. $4.5 million, 5,000 square foot renovation or expansion plus renovation of the existing building, water features, site improvements on the park. So that was approved last night. And then the granddaddy of them all is the Adult Recreation Center. That got approved yesterday. In terms of, that's in that final stage where we're awarding the bid and going to begin construction. So we awarded the bid approximately $7.9 million to Hopkins Construction, a local firm. We anticipate starting construction by the end of April. So those are our 4 actions from yesterday.
Great. Thank you for the updates. I'm glad those are moving forward.
It was a great night for parks last night.
Yeah.
Long night for parks last night.
Yeah, a long night for
Long
yeah.
day, yeah.
Yeah, now the budget's got to follow. Okay, next item, Park Service.
Yes, next under monthly activity reports, Park Services.
Harry gets his day.
Hey,
Oh, gee, he's got 35
red letter
minutes.
day, and I don't even have a PowerPoint. So we're just going to give you some updates on things that we've been working through that we've been pretty busy on. We got ball field bleacher installation contract going out. We have brand new bleachers, ADA and safety compliant for all the ball fields. They'll be going out. That contract is up in purchasing now. That'll be going out hopefully real soon, and we'll get those installed at all the ball fields. The landscape contract that we been working on, we were able to get the landscape contractor to keep his price at the same for 3 months, or 3 years actually, and he's going to do the same amount of work. And we're getting ready to sign that contract with him now, and he'll be starting probably on the about the middle of April or so, we're hoping. So get that one going. The banner program, as Commissioner Sharkey had brought up before, we've now measured every single square inch of fencing on all the ball fields. And one of my supervisors, Armin, worked very hard measuring all those, but we have it all measured out now, and we'll be having a meeting in the next week or two with the coaches to see about how they can put their banners up and how much it's going to cost them. We'll be bringing that to you when we get it all finalized. There seems to be a chance now on the Stengel Field renovation. We're going to do a complete renovation on it. Going to strip all the grass on the infield, the outfield, around the home plate, in front of the bleachers, in front of the dugouts. Have it laser graded, and have it all new installation of sod. About 100,000 square feet of sod will go back in there. So if it all comes together, we're going to bring that report next time through. We'll have all the numbers for you at that point. The Glen Oaks mulch project, just going to mention that real quick. It came in so very high that we're going to relook at that, and if we want to do that, possibly some staff will be involved in that instead of a contractor, because it came in extremely high. And one of the few last things here, the waterless urinals have done really a great job in most of the parks that I put them in. Put them in a couple of them, high-use parks, low-use parks, and there seems to be no problem, full acceptance, no problem with them. And I'm hoping after the July 1, I'll be able to buy a large lot of them at one time, maybe a better price, and then put a priority list together, put it together, and show the director what I've got planned, and then see how they work out. But they seem, so far, the last 6 months, they've worked out very well. So I'm saving. I bought 14,000 gallons a year on each one of them, and there's 4 of them out there right now. Hopefully by the end of the year or by the end of next year, I can have almost every park if it looks like it's going to be worth it. It would be a very large savings in both cost and natural resource. So we're hoping to have that completed by the end of 09-010.
Is it like the ones that you have here in City Hall?
No, these are different. Those are we use Sloan, and I can't think of what the ones they use over here. The cost range from anywhere from $250 a piece to $1,400 a piece. You can buy them for.
Wow.
I think these out here are in the MSB and so on are a little more expensive. They're a little bit nicer as far as aesthetics looking, but the ones I've purchased were around $250 a piece. And I could have opted to go for the stainless steel at $750, but I didn't see it. I have received no damage on any of them. So people are using them the way they're supposed to be used. We're cleaning them the way they're supposed to be cleaned, and they're holding up real well so far. They've been out about 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Gary, I've got a question. How many of our park facilities do we use recycled water on? Do we have some?
Approximately, I don't have the list with me, but approximately half of them but not Verdugo Park. You cannot use it because of the aquifer underneath. Okay. We do use it at a large park, Brand Park. We use it at Duke Magian, which is another large park. We have can't use it at Glorietta or New York because there's reservoirs underneath. So those are limiting factors there. But we have it on several. Shoal. We use it on both the ball fields and Glen Oaks and the lower point too. Also the park down below.
Pacific,
yeah. Packhead also Pacific. The line came all the way up San Fernando Road to Highland, and then up Highland to Glen Oaks, all the way out Glen Oaks to Grandview, and then all the way up Grandview, and then it went the opposite way on Glen Oaks, all the way up to the top where the golf course is. So
great. I'm just, the issues that are coming up this summer with water and conservation. It's pretty good to let people know that we are green and thinking that way and using recycled water and maybe flaunt what we do, put signs up.
We have signs. Yeah. In fact, I got 90 signs from the water department that have this facility uses recycled water on them. And we've been installing them with the no smoking signs.
Gary, the medians along Glen Oaks? Are those
Glen Oaks
recycled?
medians is all. Brand is not. Brand Boulevard is not, but all the medians on Glen Oaks are also.
So the turf cost is more the maintenance than the water as an issue for trying to go with the compost.
Yeah.
A little of it, yeah.
Yeah. Although they're talking about removing the discount for recycled water. But in any event, it'll pay more for water, but it won't use potable water. So it'll be savings that way.
Talk to you later about that. Okay.
What's the status on your motocross facility?
It is it is still there. We're about once a month I go drive up there to take a look at it. It doesn't seem to be being used very much now, or not very active up there. And when we have the summer crew for the hillside cleaning for the at-risk youth and so on, that will be one of the hillsides that will be cleaned.
And removed.
And with the shovels that they'll use after they remove the weeds, they'll reshape the hillside.
You're not going to gunite it or anything?
No, I hadn't planned on that right away. I was going to talk to my director first.
On a great vantage point. I've gone to Glendale College a few times. In the upper parking lot, you can just look right across at it. So.
Yeah, if you know where you're looking.
Those kids are smart kids. They must have been watching this meeting last month.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes them smart, but I see what you mean.
Well, the engineering's pretty impressive.
That's true.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So that's my report for this month.
Very good. Any other comments from commissioners?
Yes. What was the expense on the Glen Oaks area? You said they came in quite high?
Yeah, it came in quite high. It came in at, I believe, $270,000 to do all those 9 islands. And that would take an awful lot of recouping of maintenance costs, water costs, and everything else for years before we would recoup that. I had originally come up with about anywhere from maybe $1,300 to $1,800 per island. And if you multiply that times 9, it doesn't come anywhere close to $280,000.
You need a better
So
source.
is it taking up the grass? I mean, what?
It's the spraying out of the grass, and you kill it.
Yeah.
Then you grind it, you mow it down to the dirt. Then they were going to remove a couple of inches of the sod that was left, the dead sod. Rework the irrigation, cap off a number of heads, and then leave the heads that were available for the trees, and then bring in a mulch load of a couple hundred cubic yards per island. It seemed like a lot of the cost was the disposal, the removal, the low boys that were required to get rid of the dead material. That's what it looked like. So we're going to go back through that again and see if I can come up with some better way to do that job and do it at a decent price.
Do one island
that's
a demo or something.
We wanted to do one island originally.
Okay, thank you very much. Any commission comments we have?
On this, or just?
Any written communications or
No, we don't have any written communication.
any comments that commissioners like to make?
I would like to make a comment. Last fall, we had discussed, the council requested we look into alternative revenue ideas, and one of the things we had discussed was the foundation. So, what was it, the end of February, early March, we had a meeting, George Chapchin, Mark Sturdivant, and Teresa, what is her last name?
Alexanian.
Oh, right. And just thought we'd look into just an exploratory committee. And we threw out a few names, and I made a few phone calls. It was absolutely amazing. Before I could even finish, people were excited about perhaps starting a foundation which would benefit. There are grants we could apply for as a nonprofit. If there were donations, it could be written off. And so we have just the first people we haven't even had our first meeting yet. Former Mayor Carl Raggio, Tony Tartaglia, who was one of our commissioners before, landscape architect Stephanie Landrigan, and community leaders like Art Devine and Rick Dinger. Rick is great with youth. So as soon as we get our first meeting date, I'll let you know, and you're welcome to stop by. And this is just, we're looking into it, so we're on our baby steps. So we'll see how we do. And a good time to start is when the economy's rough, and then we'll be ready. And also, I'd like to acknowledge our new bride.
I'm blushing.
Thank you. Now I am, yeah.
Aloha. So All the
Yes,
best.
unfortunately, we can't move the department to Hawaii. But
Well,
I'm
anyway,
glad to be back.
our best.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Anyway, I have a letter for you that back on the foundation that went to our city manager, Jim Starbird, so you can take a look at that.
Thank you very much.
And then you'll hear from me again soon, I hope.
I appreciate you championing
Sure.
this idea. I know we discussed it, but it takes a leader to move forward. Thank you. Thank you.
And you're going to be our representative on the foundation?
We'll find out.
We'll see. We'll see what.
Any staff comments?
Just an announcement. This Saturday there's a Man's Inhumanity and Man event at the Glendale Brand Gallery. It starts at 5 o'clock. There's a reception 5 to 8. It's a tremendous. I've seen some of the photos of the artwork. I think it's a tremendous event. So if you have time, please stop in. The event is going. It'll be there all month. So there's opportunity to see it throughout the month of April. The subcommittee is comprised of 3 members from the Arts and Culture Commission, and our staff person, Ripsime, did help a lot with that. And I think they've done a tremendous job, a lot of energy put into it. So, again, just an invitation to you, if you have time, Saturday night at 5 o'clock, 5 to 8, over at the Brand Gallery.
Brand Gallery.
Is the address here? I guess. Oh, here it is.
1601.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
And then
President Ward, if I may, for all the kids and families, Easter is coming, and so this Saturday we have Easter extravaganza. The Easter Bunny will be at Verdugo Park.
What time?
Wow.
Noon to 3. So
3.
if you want to start off at Verdugo, visit the Easter Bunny, and then head over to Brand Park for our Man's in Humanity event.
And Gary doesn't have to mow for a while, so the grass gets tall to hide all those
That's
Easter
right.
eggs.
That's a fun event.
That's a really
Yeah,
cute
I went
and
last
very
year.
fun event, yeah. So
The
please join
happiest
us.
sounds in the city that day with the kids.
Good. It'll be advertised also in the paper and other places.
Yes, it's also on the website, and if you need more information, you can call our main office at 548-2000.
Very good. That's what we're all about, recreation. Any other items? Okay. I will adjourn the meeting. Next meeting is Wednesday, May 6th. We're adjourned.